Hello everyone, my name is Mona Espinoza and I'll be giving feedback to Gloria Anzaldua's book, How to Tame a Wild Tongue, published in 1980. And for background information, her book is basically about her life experience growing up, and the biggest key issue or key point for the book was basically language, like English language and Spanish language. And she has moments in her book where she talks about her when she was little, talking about like it was hard growing up trying to speak two language when one was being suppressed by the other. And and the book, she basically analyzes the social and cultural differences between Mexican culture and American culture, and how immigrants fall in between because usually, well, usually they come from like Mexico and like South America or Central America, and usually they have a hard time trying to adapt into the United States. They don't know anyone really. Like usually their family members are like somewhere else. So basically, hard time. It's a hard time for them to adapt in the U.S. And her book is basically to embrace people's own language and be proud of who they are, as their language is a part of them, which it really is, because it's their own language. It's their cultural, I want to say appearance, but like no, not really. It falls more into like part of their history. And then she basically talks about, like, one of her quotes. She talks about that she remembered being sent to the corner of the classroom for talking back to the Angelo teacher when she was trying to do was it when all she was trying to do is tell her how to pronounce her name correctly, in which the teacher stated back, if you want to be American, speak American, and all that controversial subject. And then she basically talks about like she was discouraged from practicing her native language, induced her to become ashamed of her roots, basically, when that happened. And then also later on in life, when her mom told her to not like speak it anymore, more of a, so like someone could like marry her. It was super weird. Basically, the mother wanted her daughter to have a bright future by not showing anyone or letting anyone hear that she speaks Spanish, which is kind of weird, but like most likely this takes place in the 70s or 80s at most. So this happened like a long time ago, or like not actually, yeah, like 30 years ago probably. And then she also, this is also for like, or well, her audience is basically for anyone really, anyone from immigrants to native United States citizens who feel like they're out of place and don't know what they're doing. Her book is basically focuses on how people do not have a broad view of language and often look down upon others who do not speak the language that they speak, which is kind of true because I seen it before. I see people like think that you're less than them because you speak a different language than them and they can't understand you. And the question is like, what you feel about language and code switching specifically. Is this something you think is valuable or important to you? For me, it doesn't bother me if I hear someone like talk two different languages while they're talking to me at the same time, because I wouldn't want to make them feel uncomfortable. Like I want to respect all. Like I respect all and their preferences. I only speak English, so like it may be somewhat a little bit challenging, but I'm still learning how to speak Spanish. But it's weird. I could understand a little bit, but like I can't talk. Like I can't like say words correctly without pronouncing it wrong. And then yeah. And then an example, well, a real life example for me will be my father. He code switches for me. He talks to me half English, half Spanish. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, but all the time, majority of the time, I know what he's talking about. Like this basically solve the puzzle. Like some stuff in Spanish that he says that I know what it is. Like taking out the trash or like doing the dishes. Yes, like I know some stuff. And then it's the fact that it's the fact that he knows what he's doing, basically like code switching for me to understand him a little bit more better. He doesn't really have to do it, but he does it. So to the question, I feel grateful actually that people code switch, because it helps them trying to talk to somebody. Like what if like in a what if scenario. What if you're like a tourist in a different country that speaks somewhat of their language, so you want to like code switch so they kind of know what you're trying to say, and yeah, stuff like that. And then for her biggest, or her statement is basically, which is basically the name of her book, How to Tame a Wild Tongue. It's a rhetorical question, but she gives well, it's not really an answer, but like it seems like a rhetorical question. I think it is. She states that wild tongues can't be tamed, they can only be cut out, which basically means that American cultural imperialism forces like Hispanics people, or Chicanos, which is where she is because she grew up in Texas, forces Chicanos to abandon their culture and heritage and assimilate into the American way of life, basically stripping them away what they stand for, who they are as themselves, just to be an American, which is kind of like idiotic because like anyone could speak whatever the way they want to speak. It's it by the it doesn't work with the First Amendment, which is the freedom of practice or freedom of religion, practice, beliefs, and like freedom of public speaking. So basically, you can speak however the way you want. No one has to correct you on how you speak and what language you're speaking in. And then for me, I want to say standard academic English is it's whatever for me, to be honest. Cause like, yes, I'll like be formal, like when typing an essay or like writing an email to my boss or like coworkers or I wouldn't say friends. I'll most likely text them, but like I'll just be formal for that. But then again, she's Anzaldua is basically talking about like academic English during her time, like in the 80s and like in the past, basically. So like this is somewhat relevant, but at the same time not really that relevant because more people are bilingual. So like at the same time, you don't really have to like learn English or like understand English, to be honest, which is an improvement from what Anzaldua experienced when she was growing up. And this is my podcast signing out.